So for them to somehow turn around and tell me that's too complicated to not give our gas away for free, it's gaslighting to the highest degree. Puntermon Richard Dennis, thank you for rejoining the Punters on the Punters Politics podcast. Now, we always kick off with the same thing. And last time, I don't believe we got to get you on the record. With politicians, we do ask for disclosure of assets. And so we thought we'd extend that to every guest we have on the show. What kind of assets you holding? You got 10 properties, maybe 3, some ETFs. What's your asset portfolio look like?
One mortgage and some superannuation and the car I'm sitting in.
Okay, thanks you for the disclosure. Now, are you above 3 million or below 3 million if superannuation comes?
I'm a fucking long way from the 3 million.
Maybe that might shade some of your conversation around super, but it's good to know. Now, Richard, you've been making the rounds, talking about this concept called centrism or centrism. I don't even know which one it is. Punter James is looking at me confused. He's like, what the bloody hell is this? Richard, could you just give the lay punter a bit of an idea of what the bloody hell is this concept of centrism? And in your book that you've been talking about, I'm getting the impression that this centrism sucks. So break it down for us.
Yeah. Look, I guess what I'm writing about in my latest book is the idea that you can neatly describe politics as having a left and a right and a centre, and that pretty much every issue can be kind of put on a simple spectrum between what the left wing think and what the right wing think. And then, of course, you get all these kind of worthy people saying, well, I'm smarter than you all. I'm right here in the centre. You know, I like to cherry pick. I like the best of all worlds. You know, everyone else is an ideologue. I'm the pragmatist. Everyone else is extreme. I'm the sensible one. So, yeah, having kind of listened to this shit for decades, I thought, it's probably time to actually do my job of articulating both what that might mean and why that's a problem. Because I think democracy is about debate. I think democracy is about disagreement. I don't think there's anything wrong in a democracy with people disagreeing with each other, but we've learned how to skip a step. And rather than actually debate whether an idea is good or bad, rather than discuss whether an idea is popular or unpopular, we just jump over all that and go, that's a left-wing thing and the right think this and I'm in the centre, so ta-da, fixed it. And, I don't think that works.
So that's the shorthand then. So it sounds like you're describing the political conversation that punters have is dominated by a current group think where people will assign ideas to certain categories and then instantly dismiss them based on the category. So if I'm trying to appeal to my crowd, I might be like, that's a far right-wing idea. Or the other side might go, that's a far left-wing idea. And then they get to dismiss it and we all get to go, well, we know either end sucks, so it must be somewhere in the middle. That's kind of what you're talking about. And you're saying this is not a good or helpful political conversation.
Absolutely. I think it's unhelpful in so many ways. That's why I wrote the book about it. So the first way it's problematic, the first way is to think that it's kind of meaningful and consistent to think of everything as, is that a left-wing thing or a right-wing thing? So in Australia today in 2025, we talk as if tackling climate change is a left-wing thing and not worrying about climate change is a right-wing thing. Well, I hate to break it to some of your listeners, but, in America, or say let's start with Germany, the right-wing party in Germany has been the leader on climate for decades. Angela Merkel, the president of Germany or the chancellor of Germany, was the leading climate figure in Europe for 10 years. And she was from the right. Margaret Thatcher was worried about climate change. Ronald Reagan was worried about climate change a long time ago. So the first problem with this left, right, centre map is that it assumes that particular concerns are concerns of the left or concerns of the right. It just doesn't make any sense. And more importantly, it's not stable over time. And if it was okay for right-wingers to worry about climate change 30 years ago, how come they're not okay with it now? So that's the first problem. The second problem is not what are the issues we should worry about, but what are the policies that could fix it. Go back to 2007 in Australia, a long time ago, seems like, not for me. In 2007, John Howard, the most successful Liberal leader since, in modern times, John Howard supported a carbon price in 2007. Kevin Rudd supported a carbon price in 2007. So less than 20 years ago, putting a price on carbon wasn't left, it wasn't right, it was common sense. But now it's heresy. Now it's extreme. So firstly, the whole idea of what's left and what's right doesn't make a lot of sense. But what I argue in the essay is what makes even less sense than that is saying, well, anything in the middle of the left and right, that's where I want to be. Because if you don't really take the left and the right as sort of as the obvious categories for everything, why invent a new category called neither of them?
So it sounds like it just reduces this political conversation. We're not talking about ideas anymore. We just have political tribes, political camps that are either this side or that side, and we're just trying to find and locate the middle. And if we find what's the middle between those 2 points, we're thinking that's a smart, easy shortcut to knowing what's true.
Yeah.
But we're actually just picking a random point between 2 predetermined points, and we haven't even discussed whether a carbon price is a good idea or a bad idea, or this topic is good for who or someone else. It's just kind of making politics a team tribal game.
Yeah, spot on. So give you an example. Once upon a time in Australia, we did whaling. Okay, in my lifetime, we were doing whaling in Australia. And when we decided to end whaling, it was controversial. Some people wanted to keep killing the whales. The people who killed the whales for a living really wanted to keep killing the whales for a living. But when we decided to end whaling, we didn't kind of come up with some centrist whale phase-out scheme. We didn't come up with a whale offset scheme. We didn't try to split the difference between the people that wanted to end whaling and the people that wanted to keep whaling. Like, we just kind of thought about it and went, what are we going to do here? I think this is the right thing to do. Same with asbestos mining. We didn't split the difference and ask the asbestos industry, well, what percentage of building products do you think it's okay to make from asbestos? Right? So we didn't adopt a centrist position where everyone was a bit sad. There were people that wanted to get asbestos out of our houses. There were people that wanted to keep selling asbestos for us to build our houses from. And we made a decision. And that's what democracy ultimately is delegating to our elected representatives some hard decisions to make. But in modern, I'd say the last 10 years in Australia, everyone's always looking for a way to not make a hard decision, to just find the way where the fossil fuel industry and the climate, people that want climate action are happy. Or, we're just always searching for a compromise, which, to be clear, sometimes compromise is fine, but we never asked the beer industry what blood alcohol level they'd be okay with.
Do you think it's a generational thing of young people not wanting to join anything? I'm seeing this come up a lot. It's like these days young people, they all just want to start their own thing, and I'd put myself in that category as well. I think it's got something to do with no one trusting any type of institution anymore. Is it just, I don't want to be left. I don't want to be right. I want to be somewhere in the middle.
Yeah,
that's
the millennials.
right.
This is a millennial problem. I'm so special.
Yeah, I think it's I want to be different.
Or have you seen it in other people other than millennials?
Yeah.
Look, I think that in politics, this is mainly something that's being done by much older people who, to be clear, are just trying to get the best of all worlds. Like imagine if I'm Albo and I've spent decades saying, I want to fight Tories. I want climate action. I grew up in public housing. I want to. And now you're the Prime Minister with a huge mandate. It's like, okay, mate, time, go for it. All yours. Here you go. He's like, well, when I said I really want to, what I meant to say was, as long as everyone's happy with that, right? We keep giving veto power, over our democratic processes, I would argue to the wrong people. So I think the professional politicians doing centrism are doing it quite cynically. They're using it as an excuse for doing nothing. Oh, yeah, I really want to tackle climate change, but can you just get the fossil fuel industry on board? Right? So if you can do that for me and you're both happy, then I am your go-to. Whereas, actually part of leadership is picking a team. Part of leadership is saying more of this, less of that. So I think there's I think what you're saying is important, James, that, I think a lot of younger voters are thinking, well, in my life, I don't want to join something. I'd rather just kind of do it my way. That's fine. But both are true. But the centrism that I'm having a go at in my essay is the very professional, very organised use of using words like centrism to conceal a lack of courage, to conceal a lack of conviction, to conceal a willingness to actually fight power on behalf of the people who voted for them.
So it's sounding like a bit of a cop-out then. So I guess take the hammer and tongs to Albo in this government right now, because it's sounding like there are valid points to listening to all sides of argument, seeing what the opposition is saying and going, is that valid? Is that not? Who does that benefit? Who does it not? And then looking at the evidence and going, you know what? Asbestos kills people. We understand the asbestos industry is going to be unhappy with this decision because they're not going to make money, but the people not dying are going to be stoked. So we're picking a side on the not dying. So then critique Albanese right now. Are you saying that his sort of middle of the road, slow, chipping away, incremental approach, trying to not piss off any large interest groups, are you saying he's using the veil of centrism to appear that he's in the middle as a cop-out?
Yes, I am. So before I make the case for how he's used it as a cop-out, let me make the counter case that he's actually willing to be brave, sometimes. So in his first term, there was evidence that stone bench tops, when they're kind of drilled and sawed, cause dangerous dust that kills workers. And to their credit, the Albanese government stepped in and banned stone bench tops, right? Not phased them out by 2050, not a bench top trading scheme, and not an announcement of new lung cancer research unit because we know more people are going to die, right? He took
an inquiry.
Yeah, an inquiry, right? No, okay, there's good evidence, there's a problem, I'm going to fix it. So he knows how to do that. Yay. Social media ban for under 16s. Personally, I think it's a bit of a problematic idea, but to be clear, there was bravery there was decisiveness there, and did he upset...
And young people can't vote, so stuff them.
Well, there is that, but he also upset the tech companies, right? He picked he made some enemies there. So my point is he knows how to be decisive when he wants to. He knows how to have a row when he wants to. But when it comes to something like, the overwhelming scientific consensus is we need to stop building new gas and coal projects, or the overwhelming economic evidence is even if you have a gas project, why would you give the gas away for free? And by the way, the overwhelming opinion polling says most Australians don't want you to keep opening new gas and coal, and they certainly don't want you to give all the coal and gas away for free. Enter Albo. Oh, that's an interesting point you make there, but I'm not as extreme as you, Richard. I'm not as extreme as you, right? That's an interesting point. You're entitled to your opinion there, Richard. But over here on the other side, there's some very powerful people saying you better not, mate, or we'll take you around the back. So rather than be decisive on climate change, we use the idea of centrism, and in turn, I'd say we use the excuse of centrism to say, I accept the science of climate. It's just I ignore the science of climate when I approve an enormous new gas project. But by trying to both sides it, by trying to suggest, I'm hearing everybody, I'm doing my job being in the centre, I'd argue that, no, you're ignoring the science, you're ignoring the economics, you're ignoring what most people want. You're just afraid to have a big fight with the gas industry.
Because the centre point between a foreign-owned gas cartel destroying our economy and the benefit of the Australian citizen, the centre point, and where all the economists sit, the centre point is a dumb point to sit, even though it's slightly further from where Chevron would draw our economic policy from.
Exactly.
It sounds like that there's, as far as our politicians can come to us, seems to be directly proportional to the power of the interest group they have to step away from. But then as soon as we mention stop giving gas away for free, that power of that group suddenly has Albo saying, like the resource minister on our podcast saying, we've increased by $2 billion. And I mean, that's a lot. We know it's not. So is power got to do something with this smokescreen of what they call, we're in the center. We're actually just making everyone happy.
Absolutely. And look, I think that's the point, that all these But yeah, and people might call themselves centrists for different reasons. Like, I don't know why, different people do. I'm describing a problem that I see. I'm describing that centrism can be used as a way to avoid power or confronting power. And I'm absolutely arguing that that's what professional politicians know they're doing. Now, whether people who are listening who feel like, I'm not on any particular team, I like a bit of this, a bit of that. I'm not saying that people who feel that way think, look at me running away from power, right? No, that's not their motivation. I'm talking about what professional politicians do when they wake up in the morning and think, hang on, I got millions of people telling me that they want me to act on climate change, and I got this enormously powerful industry saying you better not act on climate change. How can I get myself out of this hard choice? I know. I'll tell everyone I'm splitting the difference. But, there's a whole bunch of
And they seem reasonable.
And then I'm the reasonable one. So I talk about this in the essay. I call it the game of percents. Labor have become very good at this in the climate space. Labor love to turn climate policy, whether it's an emission reduction target for the nation or a renewable energy target or any kind of target. They love a target. And I call it the game of percents. Because what they do is they come out with a percent. They say, I want a, 40% emission reduction target. And they know the Greens will say it doesn't go far enough. And they know the Libs will say you've gone too far. And they're like, look at me, right in the sensible centre. I got the percents just right. How do I know you got the percents just right? Well, the Greens want more percents. The Liberals want less percents. I must have it just right. Now, maybe that's true, but it's not actually an argument. Maybe it's true, but where Labor really struggle, and boy, they put effort into avoiding what I'm about to say, where Labor really struggle is when you move questions away from the game of percents and say, why are you still opening new coal and gas projects in the middle of a climate crisis when every scientist in the world says that we shouldn't? And they start telling you about their domestic percent target thing. It's like, no, mate. Sorry, we're not talking about percents. I'm just saying, why are you still opening up the things that cause the harm? And they're very well trained. They're very well practiced in avoiding these questions. So step one, they throw to the game of percents. But if you drag them back to the good, bad, right, wrong, why are you still doing it? Their next thing will say, look, it's extreme to suggest we should shut down all the coal and all the gas tomorrow. That would be extreme. So, okay, I hear you, but you're ignoring my question because I didn't say, can we shut everything down tomorrow? I said, why are you still opening the new ones? Right? So they will do everything they can because they're smart, right? Because they've thought about it, because, this is their job. They will do everything they can to avoid answering simple questions like, why are you ignoring the science and doing this? Because that question frames them as extreme when what they want to do is frame me or anyone else as extreme. But, if you're had your first heart attack and you're still chuffing away on your cigarettes and the doctor says, why are you still smoking? The answer... I
have a nicotine reduction target I'm aiming for. It's 43% by 2030, Richard.
Yeah, or I went for a walk this morning. Good, mate. I hear that you went for a walk this morning. My question was, why are you still smoking? And, basically Labor have got, in the climate space, very good at denying the science and continuing to approve projects that cause emissions to rise while saying they're in the sensible centre.
So this is quite an advanced political manoeuvre that we talk about a lot on the show. This is you see how they dismiss someone, like the examples we've given. You're extreme if you want to end this bad behaviour straight away. So they get to use this overlay of extreme left and extreme right. Then they get to place an idea, not opening new coal projects, not giving gas away for free. That's an extreme position. Then they get to appeal to the Aussie punter who likes to be in the centre, who likes to just hear both sides, but they're not trained on what political theatre is going on right now. And the politician gets to say to the rational economist or the rational climate scientist or the rational whoever showing the evidence, they go, you're asking for something very extreme. We're going to be in the centre. This is quite the ultimate political maneuver that I'm seeing go on.
You know what's coming into my mind? It was the academic who media painted them as a protester when he ripped up the the report. Remember from
they named him an activist.
Activist.
That
That's
was
what
to
they
do
did.
with the Woodside emissions wrecking
They're like,
Indigenous
he's an extreme
rock art.
activist. It's like, no, he's an academic who's actually read through the report and seen which parts you've pulled out of it. They painted him in the wrong light, didn't they?
No, they painted him in the right light because they were trying to diminish him. Right, so even the word, right, even the word activist. What's the opposite of activist? Like in a democracy, why is someone
who does nothing, right?
Right, which is what they want us all to do. All right, so why is someone who is concerned enough about rock art to read a report and talk to journalists about it and talk to government about it, and then on hearing that the government has cherry-picked the data, be brave enough to rip up their report and say, this is what I think of your cherry-picked data? How come they can be dismissed as an activist? While someone who's getting paid $500,000 a year or $1 million a year to run the gas company is just a hard-working, job-creating captain of industry who wants to get the job done. What's the opposite of an activist? I don't know. But, it's
an apathetic Australian? I don't know.
Someone who doesn't vote.
Yeah, pretty much. But again, for people listening, that's what really matters here.
It's a dirty word.
Well, the foreign CEO of a foreign mining company doesn't get a vote in Australia, but I do, and you do, and everyone listening probably does. So, of course, they want people to feel like, participating in things, writing a letter to the editor, going to a protest, whatever. Oh, what a pointless, silly, extreme thing to do. Why don't you sit on your hands and do nothing while we get, your gas for free?
While we send in our army of lobbyists to Parliament House. This is actually quite an unveiling of the most sinister, political maneuver going on. It's quite the political theatre that when I see it, you map it out there, Richard, it is everyone's in on it and everyone's playing their part. Everyone's playing their role, all to give the appearance that the government of the day right now is doing the sensible thing. But it wouldn't be sensible if we didn't have the people being funded by astroturfing groups, sparking protest groups about, we have to give away gas for free because we need more investment and all that. That's the extreme position, right? And the government go, well, we're not exactly there. And then they can paint those lefty green hugging hippies as real extreme. And every politician has their role to play in this game. And Albo has come in with the ultimate solution, which is, hey, I'm just in the center, whilst serving mostly the powerful interest groups, even at 70% or 50%, he's still doing that much of service to them and not us. And it's extreme for me to say, oi, Albo, work for me and not those bludgers. That's the extreme position, apparently.
Yeah. So I look spot on. And I think, radical centrism, the idea that the only solution is found, in the middle of the Labor and Liberal Party's current positions, radical centrism always serves the status quo. Radical centrism is just actually a way to kind of keep things the way they are by lifting the bar for what's required to change something. So, I promise you that when John Howard was Prime Minister and wanted to introduce work choices to radically reduce workers' rights, he didn't ring the union movement and say, is that okay with you? Because I really don't want to take a step forward unless we've got broad consensus here. Right? No chance. All right. So he just did it. Right. Now he was democratically elected,
power.
And he had the power to act. He acted decisively. I didn't like his decision. Right, but I respected his right to do it. It led to an election. At the next election he lost. We undid some of that. Right, but to pretend that we can't make a big decision in Australia unless everyone's on board, well, A, what bullshit, B, $360 billion worth of subs didn't even go to cabinet, so the idea that we can't make a big decision without everyone agreeing is ridiculous. But the main thing is that's just not why we set democracy up, okay? The whole point of Parliament House is to ventilate diverse views for people to hear what the options are, and then for whatever a majority of those parliamentarians want to do, that's what they crack on and do. And if they've got bad judgment and they crack on and do things that people hate, well, then they'll lose their seats, and that's not the end of the world, right? But the idea that they're elected to Parliament to make decisions on our behalf, but they won't make the decisions that we want them to make until the fossil fuel industry or until the gambling industry or until, insert powerful group here. The idea that our elected representatives won't do what they think is right until powerful groups tell them it's okay, that's not democracy.
Because like those examples you gave, we can see the government drop more money than they've dropped on anything on giving it to the United States for submarines we're never going to get. They did that instantaneously. So for them to somehow turn around and tell me that's too complicated to not give our gas away for free, but whilst they get to pretend like we're just being careful in the transition and we're just taking everyone, like it's gaslighting to the highest degree. It feels like
figuratively.
Yeah,
and literally.
And this is my point. Like, I like politicians, I like democracy, but while most people are a bit cynical about politicians, often people aren't nearly cynical enough. These are clever people. These are people who've spent their life.
They know what they're doing.
They know what they're doing. So when they can choose to be decisive and pick a powerful opponent sometimes, but then say they can't do it some other time, well, it's our job, and, good on you guys for calling bullshit on this stuff. It's our job to step in and say, hang on, what's going on here? But when we're saying, hang on, what's going on here, I think it's really important that we always step back and think, so why are smart people doing this? Right? It's kind of like we often politicians, they're so cynical, but then we're like, they're so stupid. They don't even understand. It's like, hang on, what if they do understand?
Can't have it both ways.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
What if they do understand? And, we actually have to take their politics a bit more seriously and say, hang on, I see what you're doing there, sunshine. Well played, but, I call bullshit. And, you can understand why busy people don't have time to stop and do that, but you'd think the entire National Press Gallery could, I don't know, maybe notice for us.
Yeah, well, that was what we would pay them for. One final question. Punters might be confused because the cheat code in politics, if you want to kind of feel informed, but you're not really informed, you do just say, I'm in the centre. I'm a centrist. But that just means I just pick and choose things, which can be fine. But that's the cheat code. So you go, well, Sky News said some crazy stuff. Greenies tied themselves to something crazy. So I'm sure it's bad for the environment, but it's probably catastrophic to the economy or something like that. So it's a bit of both. We've got to be... Can you help give punters a new way? Because as we've discovered, this is a bloody complex, deliberate political theatre being played on us right now. This is a political maneuver of epic proportions where regular punters like myself, we get confused now because they're all playing this theatrical game. How do I find what's true when one group is saying one thing, another group saying another group, that group saying that group's extreme, and now you're telling me the centre isn't the smart place to be necessarily? How can the regular punter find their way to the accurate part to support a policy on?
Look, humans are always going to disagree on what a big problem is and what the best way to solve a problem is. So we won't find the shortcut to truth, but there is a shortcut to bullshit spotting. And if the person doing all the talking, if all of their best arguments are why their idea is better than someone else's, rather than why their idea is good, that's where you gotta tune in. Okay, so the fact, if Labor is saying, well, of course the Greens want this and of course the Libs want that, therefore I'm right. No, you might all be wrong. All three of you could be wrong. Okay, or any one of you three might be right. But could you actually make a case? Could you actually argue for why the thing you're doing is the right thing to do? Whereas as soon as they start throwing criticisms like extreme around, or as soon as they start patting themselves on the back for being sensible, they're not arguments, they're not evidence. So, sorry, Minister, just explain to me again, Minister, why building more coal mines and gas wells right now is a good idea. Just explain why it's a good idea without mentioning the Greens, without mentioning the coalition. Just talk me through why when all the science says we've got too much fossil fuels, you think we haven't got enough. So just It's kind of as soon as they start making their whole argument built on how other people are dumb, that's not proof they're smart.
Excellent.
Brilliant.
Richard, I need some help. As you know, I am in the public eye, get a lot of comments. They say don't read the comments. Sometimes I do read the comments. And I got a comment that I would like to see if you could read my hate mail with me and respond to my hate mail for me.
Okay.
So I'm gonna read to you a comment that I got. It was on Instagram. It was an Instagram comment. I'll read it to you, Richard, and then I'm gonna outsource my response to you. I mean, you can sell me down the river. You can respond how you wish to this prospective punter here. Pikey Not Pikey is his name.
Richard, do you often respond to hate comments, or do you get any hate comments personally?
I got off Twitter because it just got too much. You know,
fair enough.
I get insulted for a living, but Twitter just kind of got a bit much. But no, I always try to engage with people, if only so that I can see kind of what works and what doesn't, and who's reasonable and who's not. So I try to.
So this might be like an educational response for the person who's commented, rather than just a mate, go to hell.
Yeah, yeah. If I can't say something nice, I say nothing at all.
Okay.
Well, that's a good lesson for everyone, right?
I feel like there'll be some good responses here. I just thought I'd outsource it to someone above my pay grade, and then I can just put this one to rest. So this one comes in from Pikey Not Pikey. He says, in response to a lot of the stuff I talk about, Qatar is a dictatorship, and in Norway, both their social democrats and conservatives support taxing and owning the fossil fuel industry. Labor took negative gearing and CGT reforms to 2 elections, and Australia voted no. The current Labor government has closed considerable tax loopholes, enhanced powers for the ATO, and passed mandatory minimum taxation laws on multinational companies. Punters politics, honestly, mate, your understanding of politics sucks. So I'll just outsource my response to you, Puntermon Richard. What would you like to respond to my haters with?
Well, I'd start by saying, isn't it good that Labor did some good things? Wouldn't it be better if they did more of them? Like, good. No, I mean that. Like, yay, pat on the back. Okay, good on you, Labor. You did a good thing. Now do more. That's the job. Okay? Hey, I hear you did a podcast once and it was good. You going to rest on your laurels forever? Or do you have to fucking make a new one, every week? Like, show me your next
week.
Every week.
Okay, so step one, the fact that, I might be critical of Labor on a particular thing, which I, give you a long list, doesn't mean I don't actually say well done on other things. And, just in my essay, I talk about the good job they did on stage 3 tax cuts, for example. So step one, just because you're saying Labor do more doesn't mean they haven't done anything good, right? It's like, could you do more? And I'm allowed to expect more. I really am. Like, that's okay. Yeah. That's legitimate. The main argument in Australia is if we tax it, the gas industry won't show up. Does the gas industry show up in Qatar? Yep. Does the gas industry show up in Norway? Yep. Do they still profitably sell gas with those very high taxes? Yep. So the main argument, let's put their democracy aside for a second, the main argument is if we put the tax up, the lights will go out. Have the lights gone out in Qatar? No. Have the lights gone out in Norway? No. Do they collect a shit ton of revenue? Yes. Now we can talk about the democracy bit. I love hearing that because there's bipartisan consensus for something in Norway, it's easy for them. And because at the moment in Australia today, there isn't bipartisan consensus, it's impossible for us. The challenge is, how do you make the bipartisan consensus? And you usually get there by one party acting first, proving that it's popular, and then the other kids coming along behind you. That would be my hopefully educational reply to your angry messenger.
I'll take it off my list of things to do. Last question for you, Richard. We are having a Punters Politics political fundraiser, as you may have heard. There will be some politicians there. There will be regular everyday punters who will be given access to our politicians that normally corporations spend $20,000 per ticket to get involved in. So we would like some advice from you in the lead up, the dress code as punters who have purchased tickets at punterspolitix.com for the discounted 99.5% discount price of $50 or $100, down from $15,000, quite the discount. The dress code is cheap ways to look rich. Richard, you're always hanging out with, some wealthy politicians. They are quite wealthy, quite a lot of them. I'm sure you've been to some fancy soirees and fundraising dinners yourself. Do you have any tips for the regular punters out there on some cheap ways that can help them appear rich so that, they send the right signal, but they don't have to break the bank?
Well, I guess, take a leaf out of your tech bro billionaire way to show you're rich, which is largely dressed like a slob.
Just with some meta glasses on or something.
So, you can kind of go all in on the idea that, these days, if you're really rich, you don't have to show it. So you can wear your hoodie.
Sleep a billionaire.
Yeah.
Mike Cannon Brooks style.
Yeah, but then also, I don't know, my head is kind of going to Flavor Flav and, some giant dollar signs around your neck.
Gold chains.
No one's biting that gold. I'm sure it'll pass.
Pull down that collar. Have you got a gold chain under there, Richard? What's going on?
Just the t-shirt today. That might look like a platinum necklace, but it's just my old school headphones. So
he's still rocking cords.
Yeah.
Well, Richard, thanks so much for taking the time to chat to the punters on the Punters Politics podcast.
Always happy to come on, and thanks for all you do. And thanks for getting people to think about how clever politicians might be keeping millions of people away from billions of our dollars. We don't need any big new ideas to tax the gas industry. We just need our elected representatives to be brave enough to stand up for us.
Love it.
Dr. Richard Dennis, thank you very much for joining us on the Punters Politics podcast.
Thanks for having me on.
Thank you.